Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Qué Golazo podcast. This one is an emergency pod because we have to get into it. Ole is no longer at the wheel at Manchester United. Carrick's interim reign is over. So now it's on Ralf Rangnick to bring back the glory to the Red Devils. I'm here with James Benge to discuss the Germans' tactical vision for the Red Devils and what that means for some of the big egos, maybe one of the biggest of all time, in the locker room. Qué Golazo begins right now. All right, everybody, before we get into it, I want to say thank you for tuning in. So leave us a comment, like the video, and subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well while you're at it so you never miss one of these awesome emergency pods in particular. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, do us a favor and leave Qué Golazo a rating and a review. It only takes a few seconds, and it helps us to continue to make all these episodes free, just like this one. All right, I'm Jimmy Conrad, your favorite former U.S. men's national team player. I'm here with James Benge. Benge, let's talk about this. Ralf Rangnick, what is his footballing philosophy for those that might not know?
I mean, first of all, Jimmy, I have to say it's great to see an upgrade in the host's chair. We moved you up to the big boy spots. Luis is away, and we're going to have some fun without him. I mean, Ralf Rangnick's philosophy, it's relatively easy to explain because just go and watch the Bundesliga right now. Go and watch any Bundesliga game, and you see, you know, the signs of Ralf Rangnick's influence. It's far and wide how much impact he's had, not just on the German game, but then out into Europe. I mean, it feels reductive to just boil it down to one word like gegenpressing, but I think maybe that's the easiest place to understand how Rangnick's sides like to play football. They want to win the ball back high up the pitch. They want to commit numbers and really pressurize you, you know, using pressing triggers to take the ball off you at the right moment. You know, not that I think people view it sometimes as a bit kamikaze, and certainly it can be high risk and a bit of a high wire act, but it's not foolish. You know, his teams wait for the moment to strike, wait for the moment to pin teams back into dangerous areas, win the ball high up the pitch and go. I mean, for people that maybe just watch the Premier League, I think if you look back at the early years of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, you'll see something akin to that. Ralph Hasenhüttl, Southampton as well, when they get in the mood and get pressing well. You know, these are teams, both managers in particular, Hasenhüttl worked under Rangnick at RB Leipzig. Klopp not quite as influenced, but you do see it there. So it's just about intensity. It's about high pressing. It's about energy and working as a team. And one thing that really stood out in his quotes when Manchester United announced the move was talking about how it's more important to play well as a team. And I guess we are going to talk about some of the people who maybe need
well,
to
when you
work
say
on their
this,
teamwork.
Yeah, when I look at Manchester United, and I actually think this is a really smart hire, not only from a coaching perspective, but also the situation that he's only coming in for 6 months. He's here to hand it off. His ego of wanting to be the guy and taking over really is not going to be in the way. He's just trying to kind of steady the ship and then hand it off to the right candidate, and then he'll be consulting for the next 2 years. That's like the smartest thing I've ever heard Manchester United do in the last, I don't know, decade to 15 years, that they would even consider that as an option. But my fear is this team isn't set up to play the Rangnick way, which is the high pressing, because if you have to have high press, you have to have some pretty mobile center backs. And maybe Lindelof and Bailly can do that. I thought they were pretty good against Chelsea on the weekend, but are those the guys you want? I mean, do you want to, I mean, obviously the trend is guys that can play beautifully out of the back. And I don't think of Lindelof and Bailly. They're not even like in the top 30 center backs when I think of guys that can play out of the back and play well. But they could maybe do what Rangnick wants. Now, obviously, Varane comes back in. He'll be someone that can do a little bit of both, even though he's added a couple years. But in terms of high pressing and intensity, I don't really see this Man United squad being compatible with Rangnick's tactics.
I mean, and you've mentioned the centre backs. I think there are plenty of other places where we could.
Sure, there is. I just started there because I'm a former centre back bench.
And I'm sure you would have loved to be chasing the ball so high up the pitch as well, Jimmy.
Depends. It's all situational, everybody. There's certain cues in the game that if everybody's on the same page, yes, it makes a lot of sense. But there were moments when I played for the national team in particular where Bruce Arena, who just got named MLS Coach of the Year, shout out to Bruce, that he said, we're going to be isolated 1v1 for 10 seconds. And if the pressure's right, then the ball will be so easy to read that we should be able to cut out whatever pass comes our way, whether it's over the top or right in front of us. And that even if we're in those isolated moments, we should still have some cover based on how everybody else is set up. And I love that and we were the ones that actually decided as a team, as center backs, when we were going to press and when we weren't. So I guess I see the world maybe through that lens of center back, that we get to control when the team steps and when it drops. So I'm kind of curious if Rangnick feels the same way, because there's certain obvious cues, like a throw in deep in the corner, obviously everybody should be pressing that, but there are a lot of non-obvious ones where that's where you can set traps to win the ball and really kind of play into the egos of these players that think they can play out of every situation.
And I guess everyone needs to really understand this, really be live to the game. You can't be looking elsewhere or thinking about what will happen when you get the ball back. It's got to be following the game. I mean, I'm intrigued how that will work in midfield. I mean, we should probably say Michael Carrick said that Ralf Rangnick had no influence on the way Man United played against Chelsea. Now, when you look at that team, when you look at how they started, and it was for like 10 minutes, and then Chelsea found a way through the press, and it just became too difficult for United. But it felt like a Rangnick team. They were playing a midfield diamond with Bruno Fernandes kind of moments like a centre forward and moments an attacking midfielder. That's how RB Leipzig played under Rangnick. And they did press incredibly intensely in the first 5 minutes. I'm blown away by it, to be honest. But then you kind of look at the personnel in midfield there. I like Fred doing that sort of thing. He's very dynamic. We've always said he's maybe not disciplined enough to just sit in front of the back three or back four. Matic could do that role. I don't know if he'll do that 38 games a season. And then we get to the front line. Rashford isn't great at it. Greenwood did it a bit before Ronaldo came along. And then, of course, there is Ronaldo. He didn't press when he came on. He did not really work at all. Lingard did, by the way. Nearly got Man United a goal from his pressure. Ronaldo is the big question mark hovering over all this, because as much as, I agree with you, Jimmy, Rangnick's not an ego guy. This is not going to be about him, but it is going to be about the team. Mm-hmm. And if that team all has to work together, then I suppose we need proof that Ronaldo will do that. And we've not had much evidence that he'll do that for about 5-6 years. He's 36, 37 years old. It's fair enough that he doesn't press because he's saving his energy to score match-winning goals. But then I think, well, you may just not have a place in the big games, maybe even in some of the other games. You may not have a place for Ronaldo because he's not going to do, and he's not able to do what Rangnick will want.
So that was my big issue when we talked about it in the weekend preview, when Rangnick started to become more of a candidate and it looked like that was pointing that direction going to happen. He can talk all the pressing and everything that he wants, but until he solves that Ronaldo problem, because even if Ronaldo's not playing, he's still going to be a problem. His presence is way too big to get him on the sideline. When he came on, he looked miserable on the bench. And then when he came on, he didn't look all that pleased. And it looked like Carrick had already made the decision, hey, buddy, we got 6 games in 16 days. We're not going to start you here. We'll bring you on with 30 minutes left. It didn't matter what was happening in the game. He was just going to bring him on with 30 minutes left. And he wasn't really necessarily contributing, but he didn't really ever seem engaged in what was happening. And at that point, Chelsea was starting to one-way traffic it, and United had dropped deeper and deeper and deeper, which meant that Ronaldo was going to be more and more isolated and having to do things by himself, despite the energy of Lingard or anybody else that was still out there. But I find that to be the big conundrum. And obviously, he took the job knowing that Ronaldo was going to be part of this. And I'm very curious to see how he handles this, because I feel like with Ronaldo at times, you got to bring out the kid gloves and make sure that he always feels like he needs to be the guy. And right now, I don't think United need him to be the guy. Well, they do in some games, at least in the Champions League. But I know it's really, really tough. I don't know if there's like a simple answer to this Ronaldo situation. How do you think Rangnick's gonna handle it? Have you seen any evidence, let's say, in his previous managerial career, whether at RB Leipzig or anywhere else, where he had to deal with like an aging superstar and what he did with him? Because I can't think of anybody off the top of my head.
It's everything he doesn't really want in a player.
Exactly.
Not not that hard work. So there's no evidence, because there's never been an occasion where he's managed a waning superstar who is still going to be quite valuable to the team on occasions. And certainly nothing I'm aware of in terms of that. I mean, I completely agree with you. It was so strange watching Ronaldo at Stamford Bridge, and there was a spell where I wasn't watching the football. I was just, and he was patrolling the whole touchline like he was the manager or something. And I think that because there's a part of this whole Ronaldo thing where under Solskjaer wasn't the most significant footballing person at the club. It was Ronaldo. This was going to be Ronaldo's team. Everything, Solskjaer had to, throw away all his plans, his intention to play a 4-3-3. All that went because Ronaldo came back. But if you've hired Ralf Rangnick to be your head coach for 6 months, and then, they call it a consultant, but I think we're all thinking this is going to be effectively director of football. In other words, for 2 years, well, that's Rangnick. This is Rangnick's football club now, not Ronaldo's. And you do have two styles here that are completely the complete antithesis of each other.
Right.
I don't know. The answer is, I think we also have to say we don't know. We're just going to really enjoy watching it. I think there will be real drama and tension, and I don't think Ronaldo will play some of the very biggest games. Why would you play him? He doesn't. He doesn't press. He doesn't win the ball back. Yes, he scores goals, so you might bring him on in like Carrick did. Bring him on in the 60th minute if it's 0-0 and you need a match winner. No problem with that. But would you start him against whoever's up next? Would you start
Arsenal's up next, Ben? Arsenal is up next. So I wanted to get your thoughts as to, because I guess there's still some question as to whether he can get his work permit in time to actually manage this. So it might be Carrick again. That said, it's going to be Carrick with heavy influence from Rangnick at this point. Arsenal, I think, are doing pretty well against teams, let's say, of Manchester United's caliber, but struggle against the top ones this particular season. So I'm kind of curious what version of Arsenal is going to show up for this particular game, knowing that Man United's a little bit of a drop-off from the top teams, but we'll still give them some trouble. Do you go with Harry Maguire's coming back in after Bailly actually had, a nice game, and Maguire's probably not as mobile as Rangnick would prefer as a center back? There are a lot of questions, and I need some goddamn answers, Ben. So I'm kind of curious as to what you think the lineup might be for United against Arsenal.
I think the United lineup will probably be fairly similar. Maybe bring in Greenwood. I thought Rashford was a bit, but there's not much else you can do if you want to play this way. And at least Carrick can say this time, whether he's got the work permit or not. We all know what British, what the British government is like right now. Not the most efficient, so it wouldn't shock me if he's not got anything in place. I think Arsenal will actually be quite glad to play this team now because, there is a lot of debate about how much they tried to press against Chelsea. But my impression was that they tried it a bit and actually Chelsea were just a bit too good at playing through what was a pretty average press because they've not learned to all go at the same moment yet. So I think this is quite a good time for Arsenal. I think they'll be looking at players like Ben White, Thomas Partey. Can you beat your man and get us in broken play higher up the pitch? I think Arsenal will be pretty happy to get this game in now. And they'll probably roll out a similar team to the one that beat Newcastle. I mean, it's always hard because you're going to Old Trafford. There will be a lot of buzz there and a lot of players playing to make a point. So, I kind of think it will maybe be a bit of a stalemate. But I think that, this Man United team, if Rangnick is able to impose what he wants and does what he wants, that will take time. Now is a good time to be playing them rather than 2-3 months down the line when he's had time to drill them in his system.
All right, final question for you, James Benge. Manchester United currently sit in 8th on 18 points. They're 9 points away from the relegation zone and 12 points away from the top of the table. Where do you think, we're 13 games in, by the way, so 1/3 of the way into the season, 2/3 left. Where do you think they're going to finish at the end? I'm making you put your flag in the ground right now until I'll forget I even asked you this, but what do you think?
I'll do that, but you better do the same as well.
Sure.
I think we're talking somewhere around 5th to 7th. Probably if I was hitting one position, 5th, because they've got real talent. But I think it's going to take time to work it out. If United are smart, this is a move for next season and the season after and building long-term philosophy and all those things. But that therefore means you do have to be willing to take time to build a system properly and not just swing for the fences. So I think they won't get Champions League, but they will get European football. So 5th.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they're either going to be 5th or 6th. And enjoy the Europa League, Manchester United fans. I just Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, definitely in the top 3. And then I think that 4th spot's up for grabs. Maybe West Ham can kind of continue to hang around. Wolves are hanging around. Arsenal hanging around. So yeah, it's hard to say. I just think that Man United will get 5th or 6th. Okay, one last question on the last question. Do you think Ronaldo's with Manchester United next season?
Oh, no, I don't think he is. I just don't. It's hard, isn't it?
It is hard.
I guess the question would be, where else would he go?
MLS, baby. He's coming to MLS.
I mean, that's my gut reaction, is that they just sort of say, okay, thank you. We do have to be getting on with things. You're welcome to stay as a substitute fringe player. We know you'll score the goals, but I think maybe he goes.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't know where I stand on that yet. I got to find it deep in my feelings. But everybody, listen, that was our emergency pod with regard to this Manchester United situation and their new manager, Ralf Rangnick. We asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of James. I asked a lot of myself. We want to ask the same ones of you. Hit us up on the Twitters at Qué Golazo pod. Let us know your feelings on how this is all going to go, Ronaldo's future, where they're going to finish. We'd love to hear from you both. James Benge, thank you so much for your time as always, and I look forward to guest hosting with you in the future.
Thank you, my man.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you soon. Make sure you subscribe and like and all that good stuff. Later.